thriving, playing, living life to the fullest. Our mission for Kansans since 2003. We are Kansas Spine and Specialty Hospital, proudly supporting KPTS, Public Television for Kansas.
The following program is brought to you by TZ Productions, offering 40 years of media experience.
These stories are like old friends. Their lives radiate from the screen like prophets of the past. They were teachers, but not in a classroom. Instead, they taught about life to those around them who cared to listen, and I was their student.
It was a nightmare diagnosis that put all their hopes and dreams in jeopardy.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining us. Any cancer diagnosis is devastating. News of this type is often awkward to talk about, but Michelle Longabaugh decided people needed to know that no cancer should be swept under the rug. She was not about to let misconceptions and embarrassment force her and others to suffer silently. Watch this story from 2011, and then we'll tell you what happened next.
If you want to shut a room up, you just mention that you have anal cancer and it goes quiet, and people often even will change the subject. They don't want to talk about it.
Her name is Michelle Longabaugh, and she has anal cancer. Now, I met Michelle when I was told I was on her bucket list of people she wanted to meet in case she died. Well, that's never happened to me before, so we met. And when I heard her story, I thought she should share it. All cancers are bad. Anal cancer, though, seems to be worse because of its location and stigma. But she's incredibly open about it because she wants to help others. So for nearly 2 years, she's been living with the cancer and with an uncertain future.
Michelle Longabaugh grew up in Johnson City, New York. Had a normal childhood with the usual fond memories. Now she's one of those people you immediately like. A warm, outgoing personality, a reality-based optimist with a sense of humor. Married with 3 children, life was following the script.
People get married and you stand up there and you say for better or worse, and in sickness and in health, they don't know what they're saying until you're really in it for better or worse in sickness and in health.
Michelle had what she thought was a bleeding hemorrhoid. The doctor disagreed.
I will never forget the look on his face, and he looked at me and said, "This is not a hemorrhoid."
It wasn't. It was stage 4 anal cancer.
Wow, I mean, it was a speechless moment for my husband and I. I remember literally my mouth hanging open and not being able to shut it. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
I hadn't thought about it in a while.
I understand.
But as for that day, that was maybe the worst day of my life.
Michelle's husband, Jerry Longabaugh, is principal at Eisenhower Middle School in Goddard.
At that point in time, we only had each other. That's how tough it was. It was like getting hit with a Mack truck.
I was the lowest I felt like I'd ever been. I felt so hopeless just at that moment.
Anal cancer is rare. It affects about 5,000 people in the U.S. each year.
So like a metro area like Wichita, you're going to probably see around 15 cases a year.
Dr. David Johnson of Wichita is Michelle's oncologist.
The interesting thing about anal cancer is that the treatment is relatively short but very intense. It's a tough go.
Despite her smile, as the doctor noted, these treatments were difficult for Michelle. According to the Mayo Clinic, these are some of the risk factors for the disease, including the sexually transmitted HPV virus. But Michelle says that doesn't describe her.
I didn't have one risk factor. Not one solitary risk factor. When they told me that there was a possibility that maybe in 3 years I wasn't going to be here, I'd made up my mind at that minute I wasn't going to waste any more time. It's being in the moment, not just going through the motions.
Recovering from the chemotherapy, Michelle wanted to get back to life as usual. She's a nurse and a businesswoman. She and a business partner sell sophisticated medical devices to doctors and hospitals, so getting back into the swing helps. But not knowing the future is difficult, especially with her college-age kids.
When you get cancer, everyone in your family gets cancer. I said, you can do something for me to make me better. And they said, what, Mom? We'll do anything. And I said, stay in school, get good grades, and don't give me anything to worry about. And all three of them did that.
Michelle lives 4 months at a time. That's how long she has between scans that will tell her if the cancer has returned.
One bad scan could be Michelle's life.
I went with her to her last CT scan. The barium, well, it doesn't go down well, but it's necessary, and she makes the best of it.
I just think to myself, there's nothing I can do to change what's going to be on that scan. There's not one thing I can do. I feel like I buried my head once because of this, ignoring the symptoms, and to not do a scan would be like a relief, but I can't bury my head. I have to know.
A hug from best friend and business partner Marie Maloney as the wait for results begins. The hardest part is always waiting for the news of what the scan did or did not show. Michelle keeps busy with small things like wrapping a birthday present for her mother-in-law.
I guess when you're faced with the fact that there's a chance that you could die, you realize how much you underappreciate the little things that are enjoyable to do.
Her husband Jerry's work as a middle school principal keeps, of course, his mind active.
And sometimes that unknown just kills you, and anybody who's been through this knows that.
This was when we went to see Dr. Reed.
The unknown
So
is
that's what I
about to
did
become the known. A week after her CT scan, the doctor will tell her if her cancer is back.
There you are.
A lot of times you can tell by just the patient's facial expression when you walk in how well they feel.
It's nice to see you.
You can walk in, look at the weight, you can see how the patient's demeanor is, and you can kind of get an idea how they're doing and how that fits in with the test results.
This is all right stuff to complain about, right?
With professional subtlety and near art form, Dr. Johnson tells Michelle and Jerry the scan results.
You look great. Your weight looks good.
Good.
Your blood work looks good. And your scan looks negative.
It was the best news.
All right.
All right?
I'm liking it.
The scan was clear.
Thanks, Dr. Johnson. Yay me.
But there will be another scan in 4 months.
Just trying to fly under the radar and stay cancer-free.
You are cancer-free.
That's so great.
But as all cancer patients know, living with it, not knowing if it will return, is difficult. And since she was diagnosed, Michelle has kept an intimate blog. It's called I Have But What? In it, the innermost details of her feelings and thoughts. And when weather permits, she writes in her quiet place, her front porch. One entry remembers when they first got the cancer diagnosis. She writes, Jerry and I look at each other in stunned silence. I begin to cry, and so does he. We hold each other, and this is a precious moment in my life. I know it sounds odd, but it is. Me and my husband on the same emotional ground, with nothing to cling to but each other.
Wow. I mean, I can read my own pain in that.
Sometimes I was heaving and retching so hard my sister said she expected to see my body invert on itself and disappear into the toilet. I felt such despair and anger at those moments.
That nobody deserves to have it.
Out of control, scared, I would sob between heaves, begging God and anyone who would listen for mercy. My sister would stand by me, her hand on my back, whispering encouragement, murmuring words of comfort, and crying with me.
I think that's why my blog's so important. And I'm able to articulate it so that if somebody reads it, they know who I am as a person and not just, you know, the lady that had anal cancer.
There were two things that Michelle wanted from me. That number one, she was treated with dignity throughout the whole situation, and that God's light would shine through her. That was tough.
But we have talked pretty seriously about what it would be like for him and our children if I weren't here.
Like you said, we'd like to have a lot more time together, but
we'll take what we can get 4 months at a time.
4 months at a time.
4 months at a time. We take what we can get 4 months at a time.
Yeah.
And it's the best 4 months we've ever had.
Yeah.
And we live it like it's going to be the last 4 months we've got. And then if my cancer comes back, we know that times are going to get tough again. I'm not afraid to die. I'm not afraid. I just don't want to.
Well, since I shot that story in 2011, Michelle's cancer has returned twice, but both times it appeared to go away after treatment. Now, she recently had another test that raised concerns, but Michelle says she continues to make the most of every day. She's still working as a nurse, and she and her husband just celebrated their 30th wedding anniversary. She always looks on the positive side.
And she's very courageous, too. It's not a cancer a lot of people want to talk about, but she invited you into everything just to make sure that she can help someone else.
Right. Total access in a very personal moment, but she's helping other people, and that was the whole point of the story.
Thank you, Michelle. Now to another person whose life story is near and dear to the hearts of Larry and I. He was a pioneer broadcaster who influenced not only the lives of people he worked with, but also just about everybody in Kansas with a television set.
Now, his name was Martin Umansky. He founded Cake TV and gave me my big break in television. But what he gave the people of Kansas was something much more important.
Cake Television, KAKE TV, Channel 10, Wichita.
I hope we've had a good station that's provided news that people have been able to rely on us.
Good evening. The United States
and the European
occasion with a song.
We leave you. Good evening. As a taxpayer, you
So the first thing I did was put in news across the board, a half hour every night.
Martin Umansky was a dreamer and a doer.
There's lots of ego in our industry. It's undeserved. The ego belongs to the medium, television. That's the real charmer. And if we work it well, we become very successful.
From the beginning, in 1954, he created Cake Television in his image. A strong news department, local programming, and community involvement.
I think the thing that made us successful more than anything else, the people we had. I think I'm a very lucky person. I think I've been in a profession that I dearly cherish and I've enjoyed every day.
Martin Umansky made Cake one of the most successful local stations in the country. And much of that was because his belief that news was the station's most important job.
And when you do that job well, the business will flow. Because when you do it well, you serve the community.
Martin Umansky was one of those guys, he couldn't stand injustice. And when he learned that Wichita country clubs and private clubs were discriminating against blacks, Jews, and those of Lebanese descent, he didn't want the public kept in the dark. He decided to investigate.
But if things are not right, if they're not moving the way they should, I can only take so much of it, then I got to speak out, and I got to do something about it.
Umansky also found that Wichita didn't have a restaurant rating system, so how was the public to know if where they were eating was clean?
Cake News is presenting a series of reports on restaurants in the Wichita area.
And it becomes a financial problem. We lost a lot of money on that restaurant series. We had cancellations that wouldn't quit. As a matter of fact, we have a very deep and abiding responsibility to do these things. If not, who's going to do them?
And then the silverware is put back into a dirty container.
And neither was Martin fond of monopolies, and he felt the Wichita Eagle in the 1970s was a monopoly. So what did this television station manager do? He started his own newspaper, the Wichita Sun.
It was okay. It was okay. If I were to do it over, it would be on. It would continue on.
The Sun may have been one of Umansky's few failures.
But I want to tell you, the most important thing that's happened in all the years is there's been a personal fulfillment that's meant more than anything else. I mean, to me, each day is a joyous day.
And so it was for those of us who had the honor of working for him. He was what local broadcasting should be about. From developing the first election party on television to Freddie Fudd's children's program, Umansky showed the rest of us the way.
Well, I had a large whip. I mean, it ran a long distance. And when I snapped it, the people jumped too. I tell you, it didn't require that. I think they felt
Now, you were telling me a little story
not only the joy of what we were doing, because I really believed in a free hand. You dealt with talented people. You don't sit on them, you don't direct them. They find the way their way, and you get fresh perspective all the time. And that's what you should do. You let talent loose. You let art loose. And it creates wonderful things, and you nurture that.
I was 18 years old when I started working for Martin Umansky, and I remember the longest walk in the world was when he called you to his office, because then you knew you had really screwed up. He was tough, but he was fair, and when we went into his office, it was called 1 hour Martinizing.
First of all, I wasn't mean. I've never been mean to anyone in that sense. They may think that it sounds mean, but to the contrary, it's in the best interest of what the individual is doing, of course in the best interest of the station. I cannot tolerate having misspellings appear on the air suddenly. It's intolerable, you know. Sure, I'm going to call up and fuss.
And when the community needed him, he was there. When a plane carrying members of WSU's football team crashed in Colorado, Umansky created, with Hollywood talent, a Night of Stars fundraiser, with the money going to the victims' families.
Whatever immortality we have, I think is in the people around you, your own family, for one.
And in many ways, his family was Cake TV. In 1979, Martin sold Cake to Chronicle Broadcasting of San Francisco. In 1983, he told the staff it was time for him to move on.
And although it's a difficult thing to prepare for, as you know, through the years, but you know, when you get along, you realize the time comes, and I've been looking forward to it, actually. So I'm well prepared for this change in my responsibilities.
Martin Umansky gave all of us a gift. He challenged the staff to be better than any of us thought we could ever be. He taught us professionalism, gave us thick skin, pointed out our failures, and exulted in our successes. And all around the country, journalists today, like me, owe their entire career to this one man.
All I would like to feel is that whatever I've done has been well done. And that's enough.
Now, that story aired as a tribute to Martin Umansky upon his death in the year 2000 at age 83. Martin Umansky was a visionary in television. We were so fortunate to be able to work under him and to have him as a boss. I learned more from him than I learned from anybody in television.
You know, I never had the privilege of working under him, but I dare say all of Wichita television news has been affected by his leadership.
Absolutely. He set the standard. He made the bar high.
Absolutely.
And today, everybody still follows his work. It's amazing.
Martin Umansky was a dreamer and a doer. So, though, is Jim Vossen of Andover. Take a look at what Larry found him doing in 2011.
I imagine my son out here and striking the ball, just having a blast with his friends and teammates.
Behind his home on property belonging to a nearby church, Jim Vossen has been working for months to turn this land into a soccer field.
I've learned so much about grass and just what needs to be in the soil to help make the grass grow. I believe there's about 810 feet of piping out here.
It takes a sea of sweat, a mountain of work, and unbridled enthusiasm for soccer.
I had the resources, I had the friends to lend me the equipment. I do it because I love the game. I really do.
He irrigates the field with pipe he buys and uses water from his own irrigation system.
Yeah, it is a little crazy, but I think Jim is the type of guy that can get it done.
Dayton Poe is the pastor of the Generations Church that owns the property where Jim's soccer field is located.
You know, Jim's a very amazingly go-getter. You know, for us it was like, let's see what he does with it. As you can see, he's done a great thing with it.
You know, he has a love of soccer, and he's wanted to do something like this, and slowly kind of talked about it, but then it was just like, did it.
Jolene and Jim own a cleaning business called Clean For You. Now, Jim does the cleaning, Jolene does the business side of it. But the soccer field has taken a bit more time to do than either realized.
I supported it 100%. I'm not going to say it was easy. We run a business and it was hard.
I wouldn't have been able to do it, you know, without my wife holding down the fort, taking care of the business.
Put it in, right there. Nice.
This is a soccer family. Both children play, and many weekends they are on the road to tournaments with plenty of video to relive those special moments.
When you see a wonderful soccer move, it just almost looks like ballet or poetry in motion.
So as the months passed, the ground is now level. There are no rocks, and the grass is getting thicker.
Oh, makes me so happy, so happy. I couldn't be any more happy doing what I'm doing out here.
Well, you'll be happy to know that that soccer field has proven to be a big success. However, the Vossens have stepped aside and turned care and control of it now over to the church, which owns the land.
I love this because if you build it, they will come.
And they did.
His own field of dreams.
Exactly,
that he gave
Susie.
to the community.
Exactly, and it worked perfectly.
Okay, from parents to grandparents, they can do so much to shape our lives. And then the time comes when the roles are reversed.
Now, he was a 95-year-old grandfather. She was his 26-year-old granddaughter. He was a retired Quaker minister who worked all over the country with Indian tribes like the Hopis. Well, when the two moved in together, it proved to be an amazing experience for both of them.
I loved the Hopi people and the children. They wouldn't allow the little first graders where I was teaching to talk their native language. Out of the blue, we found out that we were going to be transferred to another tribe.
I've been living by myself, and he's been living by himself, and he finally said that he was ready to have some help and some company, and so it just makes sense for me to be here. Okay, are you ready? Okay, we have fun. He's a lot of fun. Yeah. That was good. He knows what teamwork is. This is where I need to put my time and energy. It won't last. He falls and it's okay. Well, he's a walking encyclopedia. He's got stories and experiences. He knows what he's doing. The first time he did it, I was anxious, you know, but I think it's important that he finds his own limits, that we all find our own limits, and I'm glad that I let him do that. There's nothing more important than this, really and truly. There's not. He's going to be around for maybe 5-10 more years.
Those were the Hopi angels.
I'm doing what I want to be doing. Read it again. Read it one more time.
Somewhere beyond the Milky Way, there you are, and I am too. Somewhere beyond this starry space, there you are, and I am too.
Well, that slice of life from 1998 was hardly the end of the story for either of these two. Now, young Danny went on to become an esthetician and skincare expert. She now runs her own salon in Santa Barbara, California. Meanwhile, Grandpa Daniel kept kicking for another 9 years before passing away at age 104.
Amazing. I bet she is much of the reason, I bet, that he stayed alive till he was 104.
Absolutely. She included him in everything that she did, and they had this wonderful, warm relationship. That's one of my favorite stories.
I love that, because she got just as much out of the relationship as he did.
Absolutely. No question.
Let's do one more story and really end this show on a high note. See what you think of this.
On the wings of the snow white dove,
He sends his pure, sweet love, the sign from above, on the wings of a dove. Trouble be handsome, but wasn't forgotten. He sent down his love, he sent down his love, on the wings of a dove.
In Hunter, Kansas, at Vera's Bar, there are no strangers.
Yeah, Lisa, that's Michael, that's Ron, and that's Gene, and, well, I forgot me. That's Ronald, and that's Linda.
People come here not because the beer is colder,
There comes more, boys.
not because the food is better,
You right there.
but because of this one woman,
Hey, look here.
72-year-old
Hey, look.
Vera Lewis.
Look here. Look at her. How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it keeps me young. Keep me out of mischief. Sometimes.
You don't come to
What isn't
Vera's
working?
just to put your name on the ceiling or to buy a bag of chips. Oh, no, no, no. You come because Vera is not only the owner, but also the entertainment.
On the wings of the snow white dove, he sends his pure, sweet love, the sign from above, on the wings of a dove.
It is the only song she sings. It is the only song she knows.
Sweet love, the sign from above, on the wings of a dove. When troubles surround us, when evil will come, the body grows weak, the spirits grows numb. Trouble be handsome, but wasn't forgotten. He sent down his love, on the wings of a dove.
You can't create a place like this. It just happens.
You know how it is when you work, you gotta be happy.
In a place where the stools are worn, where each sale is recorded in a spiral notebook,
But it isn't too bad.
Vera is not only happy, she is beloved.
The sign from above, on the wings of a dove, on the wings of a dove, on the wings of a dove.
I like it!
Hey.
Woo! Good girl! That was wonderful!
Well, my pacemaker's still working.
Okay, is it going?
Yeah.
You need to sit and rest?
No, I'm okay.
Need some water?
You know what's special about Vera?
Mm-hmm.
You see God through her. You hear God through her. She's a simple woman, but spreads so much joy, and you just love hearing her.
People went to Vera's Bar for the experience. They love Vera, and they'd come from miles around just to hear her sing, and it was just fun. You know, it's not like a plastic restaurant somewhere. It's unique, it's one of a kind, and Vera was also one of a kind. Unfortunately, Vera is no longer with us, and that bar is now closed. It's part of history. But she had a great run there and created many fond memories, as Susan said, for the people in the tiny town of Hunter, Kansas.
Hunter, Kansas.
Hunter.
A little piece of God in Hunter, Kansas.
Hunter, America.
Okay, well, that's a wrap for this week, but we have more of Larry's classic stories coming your way next time.
And remember, if you have any comments or questions, you can drop us a line at hattebergspeople@kpts.org. Now, we love reading your emails. See you next time, everybody.
The preceding program was brought to you by TZ Productions, offering 40 years of media experience.